The void beyond. The ordinary world. The city of Trilaris stood as a beacon of resilience amidst a barren wasteland, a testimony to humanity's will to survive. It was a city unlike any other, encased entirely within a vast, shimmering bubble that separated the living from the lethal. This bubble was humanity's response to the great cataclysm that rendered the atmosphere outside toxic, a desperate measure to preserve a pocket of breathable air. A complex matrix of tubes, pipes, and filtration systems sprawled across the cityscape, continuously working to filter the diminishing clean air and fend off the deadly toxins outside. Huge fans whirred day and night, their hum a constant lullaby that reminded the citizens of Trilaris of their fragile existence. In this mechanical jungle, Elara thrived. With raven-black hair and a steely gaze, she was a young woman of fierce determination and unmatched skill. As a third-generation mechanic, Elara's days were dedicated to maintaining and repairing the city's air filtration systems, a role she held with great pride. Her nimble fingers danced over complex machinery, and there was scarcely a machine hum she couldn't identify or a malfunction she couldn't rectify. To her, ensuring the city's survival was more than a job, it was a sacred duty. One evening, as the amber lights of Trilaris bathed her modest dwelling in a warm glow, Elara rummaged through her grandfather's belongings. The old mechanic had passed away years ago, but his tools, books, and memories still filled the corners of her home. As she sifted through the relics, an unfamiliar object caught her attention, a sleek, rectangular data chip, stained with age but still intact. Curiosity piqued, Elara inserted the chip into her console. The screen flickered to life, revealing shaky footage from what appeared to be a drone's camera. Verdant forests, sparkling rivers, and open skies filled the screen, a stark contrast to the metallic confines of Trilaris. The video was accompanied by a voice, unmistakably her grandfather's, narrating his secret explorations outside the bubble. In my youth, he began, I dared to venture beyond our sanctuary. I believed there was more to the world than this bubble. And, my dear, I found it. A paradise untouched, hidden from all, waiting to be rediscovered. Elara's heart raced. The images before her were impossible, yet, there they were. Beyond the stifling confines of Trilaris, beyond the vast expanse of desolation, there existed a haven. And if her grandfather's words were to be believed, it was real. For hours, she watched the footage on loop, each time becoming more convinced of her new mission. She had to find this paradise, not just for herself, but for all of Trilaris. The hope of a world outside the bubble, a world full of life and freedom, was too alluring to resist. The call to adventure. Elara's nights were consumed by the vivid landscapes depicted on the data chip. Every morning, she woke with renewed vigor, a burning need to share her newfound hope with the world. Her first step was to approach her closest friends and colleagues. They gathered in her living room, eyes glued to the screen as the enchanting vistas played before them. This is beyond the bubble, she declared, voice filled with conviction, a world our ancestors once knew. We can find it again. However, the room's atmosphere quickly shifted from awe to uncertainty. Murmurs of doubt filled the air. Marin, a seasoned engineer, was the first to voice her skepticism. It could be a fabrication, Elara. Old-world tech could generate such images, couldn't they? Jaw, another friend, added, even if it were true, the outside is death. We've known this since birth. What if this journey of yours endangers the city? You know how delicate our systems are. Others simply looked away, discomfort evident in their eyes. The idea of a world outside the bubble was a fairy tale, a myth to comfort children. To challenge this foundational belief was to challenge the very fabric of their reality. Elara's pleas fell on deaf ears. Some in the room were genuinely fearful, terrified that merely entertaining the thought would bring misfortune. Others simply couldn't fathom anything beyond their structured, predictable lives. But Elara was undeterred. If she couldn't convince them with words, she would with evidence. She remembered tales of her grandfather's airship, a relic from an age where the skies were still friendly. It was rumored to be hidden somewhere within the city, a monument to a bygone era. With renewed determination, she decided to locate and restore it. If there was a paradise waiting beyond the bubble, she would find it, even if she had to embark on this quest alone. Days turned into nights as Elara scoured old records, blueprints, and maintenance logs. She spent countless hours in the dimly lit archives, her fingers tracing paths through dusty files. Her persistence bore fruit when she stumbled upon an encrypted entry, possibly linked to the airship's location. Using skills inherited from her lineage, she decrypted the document. Coordinates. They led her to an old warehouse, camouflaged amidst the towering structures of Trilaris. Inside, under layers of tarps and forgotten machinery, lay the airship. It was a magnificent vessel, its metallic body gracefully curved, engines dormant but intact. Time had taken its toll, but Elara saw not an aged ship but a vessel of hope. Days blended together as she toiled, using her skills to rejuvenate the airship. She replaced old parts, calibrated engines, and ensured the ship was airtight. Working in secret was no easy feat. She relied on the cover of night and the city's endless hum to mask her activities. Sleep became a distant memory. Her sole focus was the airship and the world it promised. As tools and parts slowly transformed the old vessel into a functional airship, Elara felt a kinship with it. Like her, it was meant for more than the confines of Trilaris. It was meant to soar, to explore, and to rediscover lost horizons. With each passing day, her mission became clearer. If the people of Trilaris weren't ready to believe in a world beyond the bubble, she would show them. She would journey to the paradise her grandfather spoke of and return with irrefutable proof. Only then would the chains of fear and doubt that held her city captive be broken. Refusal of the call. The word of Elara's secret project began to seep through the cracks of Trilaris' whisper network. And soon enough, Tarn, her childhood friend, approached her with worried eyes and a furrowed brow. Tall, with a solid build and a gentle demeanor, Tarn had always been the protective counterpart to Elara's daring nature. He found her in the midst of the warehouse, tools in hand, lost in the rhythmic dance of repair. "Elara," he began, hesitating, "I've heard rumors about an airship and your plans." Elara didn't break her focus, continuing her work. "They're not just plans, Tarn. They're my path to the truth." Tarn's gaze intensified, his voice cracking with emotion. "You're risking everything. The world outside isn't like the footage you saw. It's deadly, unpredictable." She looked up, locking eyes with him. "I have to know, Tarn. I have to see it for myself." Tarn stepped closer, the weight of his concern palpable. "What if you never come back? What if this paradise is just a figment of the past?" The two stood inches apart, the tension thick. "I can't live my life within these confines, bound by fear," she whispered. "I need to know what's out there, even if it's the last thing I do." Tarn's expression softened. I don't want to lose you." Elara gently touched his arm, a silent acknowledgement of their bond. "I understand, Tarn. But this is something I must do." The weight of their conversation lingered as days went by. Doubts began to creep into Elara's mind. Was she chasing a ghost? An unattainable dream? She found herself wandering the streets of Trilaris one evening, the shadows of her thoughts clouding her determination. It was then that she bumped into an elderly woman, her frame hunched but her eyes sparkling with life. Lysa, as she introduced herself, had overheard Elara discussing the outer world with a vendor. "You're seeking the world beyond the bubble, aren't you?" Lysa asked, her voice a raspy whisper. Taken aback, Elara nodded. Lysa gestured for her to sit beside her on a nearby bench. "I was a young girl when the bubble was erected. Before that, I lived in the world your grandfather spoke of." Elara's heart raced. Here was someone who had tasted the freedom she so desperately sought. "Tell me everything," she urged. Lysa painted a vivid picture of a world where the sky met the sea, where forests sang with life and cities buzzed with vibrancy. It was beautiful, she reminisced, but it was also on the brink of destruction. Our ancestors made grave mistakes, which led to the cataclysm. The bubble was our salvation, but it was also our prison. Elara listened, enraptured. Each word from Lysa was a balm to her doubts, reigniting her dormant resolve. Lysa continued, "You have the fire of a seeker, young one. If your heart yearns to rediscover that lost world, follow it. But remember, the world outside has its scars. Seek not just the beauty but also the lessons it holds." The two women sat in silence, the city lights casting a soft glow around them. When they parted, Elara felt a renewed sense of purpose. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with danger, but the promise of discovery, of bridging the past and the present, was too compelling to ignore. Lysa's words were the beacon she needed, guiding her back to her mission, reminding her of the world that once was and might still be. Meeting the mentor. In the days that followed their chance meeting, Lysa became an anchor for Elara, a link to the past and a guide for the uncertain journey ahead. Their sessions were clandestine, often held in the quieter corners of Trilaris, away from prying eyes and ears. Lysa began by teaching Elara the ways of the old world, how to recognize and harness natural resources, the art of navigating using the stars, and how to decipher weather patterns. She spoke of the animals and plants that once flourished, many of which were now mere entries in textbooks. With every lesson, Elara absorbed not just knowledge but also the essence of a world lost to time. But it wasn't just survival skills that Lysa imparted. She shared tales of human resilience, of communities banding together in times of crisis, and of the mistakes that led to the world's decline. These stories, Lysa insisted, were as vital as any tool or skill, for they held the lessons of history. One evening, as the two sat beneath the dim, artificial lights of Trilaris, Lysa presented Elara with a compact leather-bound book. "This is my journal," she said, her fingers gently caressing its worn cover. "It holds sketches, notes, and memories of the world before. It might guide you when I cannot." Elara accepted the journal reverently, its pages filled with Lysa's elegant script and detailed illustrations. The weight of its significance was not lost on her. As their bond deepened, so did their trust. One night, Lysa decided to share her most closely guarded secret. "Elara," she began, her gaze distant, "I'm not originally from Trilaris." Elara looked at her, puzzled. Lysa took a deep breath. "I come from Etheria, a city floating above the clouds. It's a refuge for those who sought to escape the world's decay. We lived in harmony with the sky, drawing energy from the sun and the winds." Elara's eyes widened in amazement. A city above the clouds. It was the stuff of legends. But how? Why are you here? Lysa's expression turned somber. Etheria was a paradise, but it wasn't immune to human folly. Political strife and power struggles took their toll. I descended to the earth, hoping to find a different life, and stumbled upon Trilaris. Elara processed this revelation, admiration for Lysa growing. "So, there might be more out there than just the paradise my grandfather spoke of," she whispered. Lysa nodded. "The world is vast, Elara. There are wonders and dangers alike. But with the right knowledge and a keen spirit, you can navigate its mysteries." Their meetings became more frequent, with Lysa equipping Elara with knowledge, tools, and, most importantly, perspective. The elderly mentor saw in Elara the hope of a new generation, a bridge between the past and the future. And Elara saw in Lysa the embodiment of the world she sought, a living testament to the wonders beyond the bubble. With Lysa's guidance, Elara felt ready, not just to embark on her journey, but to truly understand and appreciate the world she was about to rediscover. Crossing the threshold. The day of departure dawned grey and still, the usually vibrant city of Trilaris hushed in anticipation. Elara's heart raced, a tumultuous mix of excitement and fear, as she made her final preparations. The airship, gleaming and ready, stood as a testament to her determination. Wordlessly, Tarn approached her in the pre-dawn gloom. The bond between him needed no words, but the weight of the impending separation hung heavily in the air. They stood for a moment, absorbing each other's presence. "Promise me you'll return," Tarn whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Elara blinked back tears, her voice trembling, "I promise." Their farewell was a tapestry of emotions, the fear of the unknown, the ache of parting, and the hope of reunion. They clung to each other for a moment longer before Elara boarded the airship, the engines humming to life. The ascent was smooth, the airship gracefully navigating the confines of Trilaris. As she approached the bubble's threshold, a pang of anxiety gripped her. The world she knew faded away, replaced by the shimmering boundary of the bubble. And then, with a gentle lurch, she was beyond it. The sight that met her eyes was vastly different from the lush paradise depicted on her grandfather's data chip. An expansive, desolate wasteland stretched out before her, a stark contrast to the controlled environment of Trilaris. The sky was a dull grey, the ground below scarred and barren. There was no sign of life, only the haunting echoes of a world that once was. For a moment, despair threatened to engulf her. Had she been chasing a mere illusion? Was this wasteland all that remained of the once thriving world Lysa spoke of? But as the initial shock subsided, Elara's resolve returned. She remembered Lysa's words about the vastness of the world and the wonders it held. This was just the beginning of her journey. Somewhere out there, hidden amidst the ruins of the past, lay the paradise she sought. Guided by Lysa's journal and her own indomitable spirit, Elara steered the airship forward, determined to uncover the secrets of the world outside. The barren expanse might be daunting, but she was ready to face its challenges, driven by the hope of discovery and the promise she made to Tarn. As the airship sailed through the desolate skies, Elara realized that her journey was not just about finding a lost paradise, but also about rediscovering herself and the essence of humanity. The wasteland below was a canvas, and she was ready to paint a new story upon it. Tests, allies, enemies. As Elara ventured further into the unknown, the inhospitable world outside the bubble laid bare its challenges. Towering dust storms swirled on the horizon, forcing Elara to navigate with heightened caution. Vast deserts stretched out, punctuated occasionally by mutated, almost alien-looking flora that had adapted to the toxic environment. One evening, a ferocious storm forced her to ground the airship. The howling winds carried with them a chilling reminder of the world's fragility. As she sought shelter beneath the vessel, eerie, luminescent creatures approached, their eyes fixated on her. These mutated remnants of animals, twisted by the world's decay, looked both familiar and frighteningly foreign. However, using tools and techniques Lysa had taught her, Elara managed to deter them and continue her journey. But amidst these challenges, Elara also stumbled upon remnants of human resilience. In a sheltered valley, she discovered a small community of survivors, living in makeshift dwellings crafted from scavenged materials. They introduced themselves as the descendants, the last vestiges of a city bubble called Elara. From the descendants, Elara learned the tragic tales of multiple city bubbles like Trilaris. While each was created as a sanctuary against the world's decline, many were short-lived. Resource conflicts, technical failures, and external threats led to their downfall. Elara, once a thriving haven, had succumbed to internal strife, forcing its remaining denizens into the wastelands. Despite their tragic past, the descendants displayed remarkable resilience. They shared with Elara their knowledge of surviving in the wastelands, offering her vital resources and showing her underground springs and hidden caches of old-world technology. Among them, Elara formed a close bond with Caden, a young historian passionate about piecing together the world's fragmented past. Together, they explored ruins of old cities, deciphering ancient texts and unraveling stories of the world before the cataclysm. However, the wastelands held more than just remnants of the past. As Elara delved deeper, she encountered hostile factions fighting for dominance over the meager resources that remained. One such group, the Reclaimers, viewed Elara's advanced airship as a prized possession and pursued her relentlessly. In a harrowing encounter, the Reclaimers ambushed Elara, but with Caden's help and her newfound survival skills, she managed to fend them off. The ordeal underscored the stark contrasts of the outside world, the lingering hope of communities like the Descendants and the ruthless desperation of groups like the Reclaimers. As weeks turned into months, Elara's journey became a tapestry of highs and lows. From the heartwarming camaraderie of the Descendants to the chilling confrontations with the wasteland's threats, she traversed the spectrum of human experience. Each challenge and discovery brought her closer to understanding the true essence of the world outside and her place within it. Yet, one truth became increasingly clear. The paradise she sought was not a physical place, but a mosaic of stories, lessons, and connections. It was a world marked by human tenacity and the undying hope of a better tomorrow. Approach to the inmost cave. Guided by the cryptic coordinates Lysa had provided, Elara's journey took a vertical turn. In a desolate expanse, the ground opened up to reveal a vast, seemingly bottomless tunnel, its edges worn smooth by time. The sheer magnitude of the cavity was awe-inspiring, and the air around it pulsated with a palpable energy. Using her airship's instruments, Elara deduced that the tunnel was an access point to the skies above, likely leading to Etheria, the city above the clouds. The thought of an entire city floating in the sky made her heart race with anticipation. The prospect of ascending this tunnel, however, filled her with trepidation. As Elara began her ascent, the challenges of the climb quickly became apparent. Powerful gusts of wind threatened to toss her ship against the tunnel's walls, and an eerie mist reduced visibility to almost zero. The air grew colder and thinner with every upward meter, causing the engines to strain and sputter. Inside the cockpit, Elara fought her own internal battles. The oppressive atmosphere and dwindling oxygen made every breath a labor. Memories of Lysa's tales about Etheria battled with Tarn's warnings, creating a tumult of emotions. Doubts crept in, clouding her judgment. Was this quest worth the danger? Had she ventured too far from home? Pushing these thoughts aside, Elara focused on the task at hand. Relying on Lysa's training and her own ingenuity, she manually adjusted the airship's engines, optimizing them for the conditions. She also initiated a breathing apparatus that provided a steady stream of oxygen, a relic from the ship's past expeditions. Hours felt like days as Elara painstakingly navigated the treacherous tunnel. The once reliable instruments now faltered, forcing her to rely on instinct and the dim lights of the ship. Every so often, the tunnel would open into vast chambers filled with bioluminescent organisms, their glow offering brief moments of respite and wonder. As she approached the tunnel's end, a powerful updraft caught the airship, propelling it upwards with immense force. Elara clung to the controls, willing the vessel to stay its course. Just as suddenly as it had started, the turbulence ceased, and the ship emerged from the tunnel, breaking into the open sky. The sight that greeted her was breathtaking, an expanse of clear blue skies, dotted with fluffy clouds and the golden hues of a setting sun. And there, floating majestically among the clouds, was Etheria. Tears filled Elara's eyes as the weight of her journey hit her. Against all odds, she had reached the city above the clouds. The challenges of the tunnel ascent had tested her limits, both physically and emotionally, but they had also forged her into a stronger, more resilient explorer. With renewed determination, Elara set her course towards Etheria, ready to uncover its secrets. The ordeal. As Elara's airship approached Etheria, the city revealed itself as a marvel of engineering and artistry. Suspended amidst the clouds by massive propellers, its elegant spires shimmered in the setting sun. But as she neared, several sleek, agile aircraft, seemingly forged from the clouds themselves, intercepted her. These were the Skywardens, the protectors of Etheria. A voice crackled through the airship's communicator. "Unidentified vessel, state your purpose." "I seek knowledge and understanding," Elara responded, her voice firm but filled with wonder. The lead Skywarden, a statuesque woman with silvered hair and piercing blue eyes, signaled for Elara to follow. They led her to a grand platform, where she was asked to disembark. "Welcome to Etheria," the leader intoned. "I am Seraphine, the High Warden. Your journey here is impressive, but intentions must be tested." Elara was led to a grand chamber where a crystal dais awaited. Here, she was told, she would face a series of trials to probe the depths of her spirit and character. The first trial was the trial of memory. Holographic displays conjured up scenes from her past, from cherished moments with Tarn to the near-death experiences in the wasteland. Elara was forced to confront regrets and missed opportunities, revisiting painful memories she had long suppressed. Next came the trial of truth. Seraphine posed deep, philosophical questions. Why seek knowledge? What did she hope to find? Elara grappled with these, realizing her initial quest for a paradisiacal land had evolved into a journey of self-discovery and understanding the intricacies of humanity. The final and most challenging trial was the trial of fear. The chamber transformed into a visceral representation of Elara's deepest anxieties. The walls seemed to close in, recreating her ascent's claustrophobia. She heard the mournful cries of Tarn, felt the weight of Trilaris's expectations, and saw the haunting visages of the reclaimers. Her heart raced, sweat forming on her brow, as she navigated this maze of dread. But as the minutes turned to hours, a newfound clarity emerged. Elara realized that these fears, though formidable, were also what drove her forward. They had shaped her journey, forging her resolve. Embracing him, she took a deep breath and faced each apparition head-on, acknowledging them not as insurmountable foes but as integral facets of her being. When the ordeal concluded, the chamber reverted to its original state. Exhausted but enlightened, Elara stood tall, her spirit unbroken. Seraphine approached, her stern demeanor replaced by a look of profound respect. "You have faced the trials with grace and courage," she remarked. "Not many outsiders have achieved what you have today." Elara nodded, gratitude and pride evident in her gaze. The trials had been intense, but they had also offered a catharsis, helping her understand her journey's true essence. With the ordeal behind her, Elara was ready to explore Etheria, equipped with a deeper understanding of herself and the interconnected tapestry of memories, truths, and fears that made up her story. The reward. With the Skywarden's approval, Elara was ushered into the heart of Etheria. The floating city, from a distance, had appeared ethereal, but up close, it was a living testament to human resilience and ingenuity. Majestic spires of iridescent glass and polished metal towered above meticulously curated gardens, where flora from times long past flourished. Streams of clear, shimmering water ran through the streets, fed by the very clouds that enveloped this sanctuary. The inhabitants of Etheria moved with a grace and purpose that Elara had never witnessed. Their attire was a blend of the futuristic and the historical, symbolizing a fusion of epochs. Everywhere she looked, there were nods to the world that once was, sculptures, murals, and holograms depicting scenes from Earth's rich tapestry of cultures and civilizations. At the city's heart stood the pinnacle, a vast library and research facility. Seraphine, sensing Elara's insatiable curiosity, personally escorted her there. Within its walls, Elara discovered that Etheria wasn't just a refuge but also humanity's last bastion of knowledge. Thousands of crystalline data modules, each a repository of information, lined the walls. Scholars, both young and old, were engrossed in study, deciphering old-world texts, or engrossed in holographic simulations. Seraphine explained, after the cataclysms, as the world below suffocated, Etheria became a sanctuary. Our ancestors' goal was to preserve the past and ensure that the mistakes leading to Earth's decline were never repeated. But we also look forward. Every day, our brightest minds work towards solutions, finding ways to heal the world below. Elara was introduced to some of these visionaries. There was Dr. Rao, an environmental engineer synthesizing a substance to neutralize the toxins below. Liani, a historian dedicated to archiving every remnant of human story and culture, and young Milo, an inventor creating drones to plant seeds in the wastelands, in the hope that one day, life would reclaim them. As days turned to weeks, Elara immersed herself in Etheria's wonders. She attended lectures on forgotten philosophies, learned of innovative technologies, and marveled at artworks from bygone eras. Every corner of Etheria felt like a treasure trove, a reward for her arduous journey. But more than the knowledge and the beauty, it was the hope that Etheria represented that touched Elara most deeply. Amidst the serene gardens and grand halls, she found a community united by a singular vision, a belief in humanity's potential for redemption and rebirth. The floating city, for all its splendor, was not just an escape from the world's horrors but a beacon, guiding the way towards a brighter future. And in this haven above the clouds, Elara found not just answers, but a renewed sense of purpose. The road back. Although captivated by Etheria's wonders, Elara's thoughts often drifted back to Trilaris. The discoveries she'd made here could reshape the future of her home and perhaps even other remnants of civilization below. Etheria was a symbol of hope, and its message needed to be shared. As Elara inspected her airship, however, she found it wasn't in a condition for the descent. The ordeal of breaking through the atmosphere and the challenges she'd faced outside the bubble had taken a toll. Panels were misaligned, the engines sputtered unpredictably, and the navigational system was haywire. Recognizing her predicament, the city's finest minds came forward to assist. Aero engineers, materials scientists, and navigation experts congregated around the airship, each bringing their expertise to the fore. Amara, the chief engineer, observed, "The hull has been compromised. We need to reinforce it with Etherian alloy. It'll make your ship more resilient and reduce the atmospheric friction." Meanwhile, Milo, the young inventor Elara had met earlier, had an innovative solution for navigation. "I've developed these Sentinel drones," he explained. "They can guide you through the safest routes, avoiding storms and other hazards." Days turned into nights as the city's experts, together with Elara, labored over the airship. They retrofitted its engines, integrated advanced navigation systems, and enhanced its overall structure. Alongside the technical modifications, Elara was equipped with data modules containing Etheria's knowledge, ensuring she had tangible proof of her journey and the solutions for a brighter future. During a break, Seraphine approached Elara. "You carry a heavy burden, venturing back into the unknown," she mused. But remember, Etheria will always be here. You've become a beacon of hope, not just for Trilaris, but for all of humanity below. With the airship restored and even improved, Elara prepared for her journey back. The city gathered to bid her farewell, their faces a mix of admiration and concern. As she boarded, Milo handed her a small device. "It's a communicator," he said. "In case you need guidance or just want to chat." The airship, now a fusion of Trilari technology and Etherian innovation, lifted gracefully into the skies. Elara looked down at the floating city one last time, its brilliance a stark contrast against the vast expanse below. She was heading back, not just with knowledge but with a renewed spirit, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead and determined to share the hope that Etheria had instilled in her. The resurrection. The familiar silhouette of the Trilaris bubble loomed in the distance, but as Elara drew closer, an uneasy realization settled upon her. The bubble's luminescence, which had once been a brilliant beacon, now flickered erratically, like a candle nearing its end. Desperation welled up inside her. She pushed the airship harder, feeling each jolt and hearing the engines strain. As the ship landed, Tarn was there, his face lined with worry. Their reunion was heartfelt but brief, for the urgency of the situation allowed little time for pleasantries. "What's happening?" Elara questioned, her gaze locked onto the dimming bubble. "The filtration systems are failing, and the outer layer is degrading," Tarn explained, his voice heavy. "We've tried everything, but without proper knowledge." Elara held up one of the data modules. "I have solutions. But we must act quickly." The two wasted no time. Using Etherian knowledge, they deduced that a fusion of the bubble's existing materials with Etherian alloys would not only repair but enhance its resilience. This, combined with a recalibration of the filtration system using designs Elara had learned in Etheria, could be the key to salvation. But the task was monumental. The degradation was widespread, and the city's reserves of necessary materials were woefully inadequate. However, the airship held an array of tools and resources from Etheria. With Tarn's understanding of Trilari tech and Elara's newfound knowledge, they became an unstoppable force. Word spread of Elara's return, and the entire city rallied around them. Artisans, engineers, and even children formed assembly lines, producing patching units designed by Elara. Using Milo's Sentinel drones, now repurposed for repair, they swiftly identified the most vulnerable points of the bubble. Days blurred into nights. Fatigue weighed heavily on everyone, but the fear of the toxic world outside breaching their haven spurred them on. Elara and Tarn, driven by an unyielding determination, worked side by side. Their bond, forged even stronger in the crucible of this crisis, became the city's inspiration. Lysa's tales of the old world outside, coupled with Elara's stories of Etheria, became the stuff of legends in Trilaris. Every evening, as workers took short breaks, these stories gave them hope, reminding them of what had been lost, what still existed above, and what could be reclaimed. In the final hours, as the bubble's glow dimmed to its weakest, the last patching unit was put in place. Elara, using a control unit interfaced with the airship's advanced systems, initiated the recalibration process for the city's air filters. A tense hush settled over Trilaris as everyone watched, their hopes and fears intertwined. Slowly, the bubble began to regain its luminescence. A soft hum, almost a musical note, resonated throughout, as the filtration systems roared back to life with newfound efficiency. The toxic haze outside seemed to retreat, held at bay by the revitalized barrier. As dawn broke, Trilaris was bathed in the gentle light of a new day. The bubble, now infused with Etherian strength, shimmered brilliantly, a testament to human resilience, innovation, and collaboration. The city had been on the brink of annihilation, but from the edge of despair, it had been resurrected. Elara's journey had not only saved her from the ignorance of the world outside, but had also been the salvation of her home. She stood beside Tarn, their hands entwined, looking up at the rejuvenated dome. The ordeal had changed them, had changed Trilaris, and the city's future now held boundless possibilities. Return with the elixir. In the days that followed the crisis, Trilaris found itself not only breathing cleaner air, but also savoring the winds of change. The bubble, once a symbol of confinement, now radiated a brighter glow, representing hope and potential. And at the heart of this transformation was Elara, the city's beacon. Elara, no longer just a skilled mechanic but a visionary and explorer, shared her tales from beyond the bubble. People gathered in large groups, hungry for stories of the vast wastelands, the relics of past civilizations, the enigmatic Etheria, and the boundless sky that enveloped it. Every narrative carried a lesson, a piece of wisdom, a fragment of history, or a spark of inspiration. Children acted out her adventures in play, pretending to be guardians of Etheria, or brave explorers venturing into unknown lands. Artists drew murals depicting the floating city, its grandeur and ethereal beauty contrasting with the ruggedness of the world below. Scholars and technicians studied the data modules Elara brought back, seeing in them not only advanced knowledge but also the chronicles of humanity's highs and lows. Tarn, now leading a council of progressive thinkers, spearheaded projects to leverage Etherian technology. "We have a second chance," he'd say, "and we must make the best of it." The filtration systems, once on the brink of collapse, were now models of efficiency, and plans were in motion to make Trilaris self-sustainable in terms of food and energy. But perhaps the most significant transformation was Trilaris's newfound desire to connect. With Elara's tales of other possible survivor pockets, the city began sending out exploratory teams, guided by the advanced navigational tools from Etheria. Each journey had its risks, but they were risks worth taking, for they symbolized a break from isolation and a step toward rekindling human connections. One such expedition led to the discovery of a coastal community, living atop towering cliffs and harnessing energy from the vast oceans. Another uncovered an underground network of settlements, thriving in subterranean caves and utilizing geothermal power. Through Elara's efforts, Trilaris had not only saved itself, but had also ignited a beacon for other isolated communities. And so, from a world that once seemed desolate and fragmented, new connections emerged. Trade routes were established, knowledge was exchanged, and joint ventures were initiated to cleanse the toxic world and reclaim lost territories. Trilaris, once just a bubble city in a vast wasteland, was now at the forefront of a renaissance, bringing together remnants of humanity in a shared vision of restoration and hope. Elara often found herself atop one of the city's tallest buildings, looking out at the horizon. With Tarn by her side, she'd reflect on her journey, on the perils faced, and the wisdom gained. But more than anything, she cherished the knowledge that her city, her world, was no longer defined by barriers, but by bridges. The elixir she brought back wasn't just the technology or tales of a floating city. It was the realization that even in the darkest times, human spirit, resilience, and the desire to connect could light the way forward. Ending. Months had passed since the rejuvenation of Trilaris, and the city was buzzing with the promise of a brighter future. Elara, having become a symbol of hope and transformation, was now at the center of this bustling rebirth. She was in the middle of a council meeting, discussing potential trade routes with newly discovered communities, when an unexpected figure stepped into the room. It was Lysa, looking as timeless as ever. The council room, usually filled with lively discussions, fell into a hushed silence. Elara, her heart racing, rose from her chair. Lysa. But, how? The elder woman smiled gently, her eyes filled with a mysterious wisdom. Elara, dear, it's time you knew the whole truth. Lysa went on to unveil a tale that no one in Trilaris could have fathomed. The floating city, Etheria, was far more than just a haven above the clouds. It was the overseer of a grand experiment, a test for humanity. Trilaris, along with several other bubble cities, was part of this intricate design, meant to answer a profound question. If humans were stripped of their past, of their accumulated knowledge and history, could they, when faced with adversity, find their way back? Could they rebuild, innovate, and ultimately, reconnect with their roots? Lysa herself was not just an elder with tales of the outside. She was a guardian of Etheria, assigned to guide and test Elara, the chosen one from this experiment's Trilaris phase. Every challenge Elara faced, every ally and enemy she encountered, was a meticulously crafted scenario to push her limits, test her resilience, and gauge her ability to innovate and adapt. A flurry of emotions washed over Elara. Confusion, betrayal, but also a dawning understanding. So, everything. My journey, the threats, the discoveries. They were all orchestrated. Lysa nodded, her expression compassionate. Not entirely. The world outside is as real and challenging as you experienced. But certain paths were laid out, and certain encounters were designed. Your journey, however, your decisions and reactions, they were genuinely yours. And you, Elara, surpassed all our expectations. Tarn, who had been silently processing the revelation, finally spoke. But why? Why such an elaborate ruse? Lysa sighed. After the world's downfall, Etheria's founders believed that humanity's accumulated knowledge had, in part, led to its own destruction. They wanted to see if a blank slate, a fresh start devoid of past burdens, could yield a different outcome. Trilaris was one such start. The room was heavy with the weight of the revelation. But amid the shock, a realization emerged. Trilaris, unknowingly, had proven something monumental. Even when stripped of history, humans possessed an innate drive to connect, innovate, and overcome. Elara's journey was a testament to that indomitable spirit. Lysa approached Elara, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. Your journey, dear Elara, has given Etheria, and all of humanity, hope. The knowledge that even when disconnected from our roots, we can find our way back, evolve, and thrive. Elara gazed deeply into Lysa's eyes, understanding and gratitude replacing her initial shock. Then, it was worth it, she whispered, every challenge, every fear, every loss. If it showed us what we're capable of, it was worth it. Lysa smiled. That's the spirit that will lead humanity into a brighter future. As Lysa departed, leaving behind a city grappling with newfound truths, Trilaris stood not as a mere experiment, but as a beacon of human potential. Elara's journey, while orchestrated, had revealed the core of humanity's strength. And with this knowledge, Trilaris was poised to lead the world into a new era of understanding, collaboration, and hope. If you like the story, consider subscribing and hit the bell icon to get notified when new stories are released.